All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Legacy Evolution Autobot Medix. It's cool to get another new version of another Rescue Bots character, though granted, this is not actually the version of Medix that showed up on screen in Rescue Bots Academy, which was, the kind of smaller version that just turned into a red and white police car or, some kind of medical car, some emergency vehicle. This is really more based on one of the original Rescue Bot Medix toys, which had this, like lime green color scheme and the bright orange and all of that, which granted I think is the much more interesting design. So I'm happy they went with that one rather than the Rescue Bots Academy design. But it is kind of funny that, this is not the version of the character that actually showed up in any sort of media because the original Medix, to my knowledge, was just a toy, didn't ever actually show up in the Rescue Bots show. But this guy did come out last year. I'm just getting my hands on him now. Originally, he was supposed to be a Walgreens exclusive, which maybe he still was. I never saw him in Walgreens, but also I feel like my local Walgreens never really stocks the Transformers exclusives, so he might have actually showed up in Walgreens. I'm not sure. I got him on Hasbro Pulse when they just recently put him up for order on Hasbro Pulse, so that's how I was able to get my hands on him, and I believe he's still up there now. But yeah, this is using the crankcase mold from Legacy Evolution, which itself was a retool of the skids mold, but this is using the the crankcase version with like the front bumper and the retooled alt mode and all of that. And it's a pretty nice alt mode. I don't know if it's really supposed to be like an ambulance or just some sort of generic emergency vehicle, but I like the deco there with the green stripe on the side there. What's kind of funny is that because even though this is using the crankcase mold, the head is actually the mold that was used for crosscut and burnout, which itself was meant to be on the skids mold. So if you look at the top here, the larger like sort of cavity on the hood for the crankcase mold doesn't quite fit the head sculpt there, so there's a little bit of a gap, which is not amazing because you can see right through it, but it's not that big a deal. But yeah, otherwise a pretty nice alt mode there. He comes with a few accessories here. He comes with the one gun, which just was included in the original crankcase mold, which also was included in the skids mold. He comes with the light bar, which originally actually was used for Minerva from the other Walgreens exclusive Legacy figure, and then I presumably just because it's on the same like sprue, he also comes with these two guns that were originally from the Elita 1 mold, which were also included with Minerva. So kind of weird that he comes with the extra accessories because it's like, oh, okay, he comes with a lot of guns and he's a Rescue Bots character. So that's a little strange, but it's fine. In terms of storage, obviously you can just plug the light bar onto the top there. It would have been nice if that could sit like up here rather than way back in the middle here, but it's fine. And then in terms of storage for the other weapons, it's kind of the typical just peg it onto the car and make it look worse kind of design, which granted makes sense with these two since they weren't actually originally intended to be with this mold, but whatever. In the instructions, they actually show you plugging these on like up here on the light bar like that, but on the back of the box, they actually show these plugged into the back of the vehicle mode to like stick off as some sort of like antenna or something, and then I guess you're supposed to just plug this one onto the top of the car. And that's kind of a neat idea. Like it looks okay from the front as antenna, but from any other angle it's just like, this is an ambulance with guns on the back. It's just kind of strange. I'm not a huge fan of this, but also I don't think the character really needs guns, and even if he needed a gun, he still has the the crankcase gun here that turns into the front grill, which is enough, honestly. So I personally just leave the other guns off to the side and don't display them with this figure, but that's where they're supposed to go. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, just so you can see he looks like an average size deluxe there. Here he is with Legacy Evolution Crankcase, just so you can see the differences there. In this mode, the only difference is the light bar, and then obviously that panel that the head is on. You can see how that's supposed to sit. Granted, this one didn't fully you know, fit into that gap either, but at least the gap was on this side where it's, you know, not totally see-through like it is on that one, but whatever. I also find that he stays together a little bit better than Crankcase does for me. My copy of Crankcase, I can never quite get these doors to like fully stay in place. They always want to kind of click up, and also the wheels don't really click in either position, whereas his do. So it's nice that you can actually have these out, whereas I'm always finding that Crankcase is sitting a little bit wobbly because of those wheels not really clicking into place, which is a little bit annoying. So it's nice that he feels a little bit more solid in vehicle mode. I don't know that he necessarily feels more solid in robot mode, but we'll get to that. But yeah, that's what they look like together. And then for another modern Rescue Bots character, here he is with Legacy United Chase. It's cool to get some more Rescue Bots characters. I'd love to get new versions of the other like main cast here. Oh yeah, I was going to show that off. I made a little discovery on Chase where the guns that I was complaining about, you know, just having to peg onto the side, even though there's all this like empty cavity in the alt mode, you actually can. This is not by design, but there's just enough space for it. You can kind of jam them up beneath the heels here, and they mostly stay in place once you kind of, you know, finagle them a little bit. You kind of have to get them like rotated the right way, otherwise they just fall out, but usually I can kind of get it, and it's not too bad. Yeah, just like that, and then you can, well, all right. Now that I, of course, have the camera on, this is like just looking like a floppy mess, but you can see at least one of them is staying in there. It just takes a little bit of doing, but anyway, that's neither here nor there for this video, but yeah, just figured I'd show that off. But yeah, to get on to transformation, obviously we'll just start off by taking off the front grille here. The light bar is just going to stay there, so we can just leave it. Obviously, the transformation is the exact same as Crankcase, no differences here. You just take the side doors here and just flip them up onto the back like that. Take the entire back section and just hinge it down like that, and then you can close up these shin panels and then flip the wheels into the bottom of the feet. Untab the arms, and they'll just kind of just double hinge out to the side here, which, you know, there's some clearance issues there, but usually you can kind of get it. And then for the back here, you just untab this section so you can bring down the waist and click it into place, and then rotate them back down at the hips. Then you can untab the legs here, take this entire back section, and it'll kind of just like unlock from this section, which allows you to rotate down the chest, and then you take the back section and then kind of double hinge it up. So these tabs, you know, allegedly kind of jam into these hinges to keep it from like collapsing in on itself. And there we have Medix in his robot mode. And yeah, I think he looks pretty good. I think that this is a good use of this mold. I love the chest detailing for him there. It kind of feels like it's a callback to when they did I want to say it was a BotCon exclusive version of Medix that was using the Combiner Wars off-road mold that also had like, you know, the orange, like not windows, but just like chest detail-y things on the side of the chest there. So I feel like it works pretty well. It's nice to see more of the lime green as well. Like I said, he is using that crosscut burnout mold for the head there, which I feel like is probably, you know, despite the fact that it doesn't quite line up in vehicle mode, it is, I feel like, the most appropriate pre-use of like, you know, this mold head sculpt that you could use for this guy. It would have been nice, obviously, to get a new head sculpt, but as an homage to a toy-only character who had several very different-looking toys, I feel like this is fine. But yeah, in terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so it can rotate around like that. The shoulders can rotate around like that, and then can also hinge up and down at this joint, whereas, like I said before, on the Skids mold, he also had a joint in the shoulder, so he does, as a result of this, kind of have that, you know, that issue where if you, like, rotate his arm up, it can't actually, like, go out to the side all that much, but it's fine. You can also kind of use this joint if you want. It's not really necessary, but also something that I noticed is, like, I don't love that they only painted, well, they didn't really paint it at all, but they didn't paint the other half of the wheel here, so it's like he just has the thin wheel on the side, even though the sculpting is implying that the full block here is the wheel. Whatever. He's got a bicep swivel, a little over 90 degrees of bend at the elbow, a wrist swivel, which is nice. Yeah, I might as well talk about this now. This is an issue. I mean, this was an issue on Crankcase too, but I feel like it's even worse on him, where like these tabs don't actually properly hold this into place. So a lot of the time, this just wants to flip up. It doesn't really lock in properly, which is a bit annoying, but it's fine. In terms of the rest of the articulation, he's got a waist joint right there. Hips can go forward and back and out to the side, only about that far. He's got a thigh swivel, about 90 degrees of bend at the knee, and then an ankle tilt. So, you know, decent articulation. The shoulders are the one thing that's like not great, but you know, we've seen that on lots of other figures, so I feel like that's fine. It's really just the chest not staying in place that's kind of annoying. And then obviously he's got the little shoulder cannons left over from Crankcase as well. But yeah, in terms of his weapons, you can give him his big grill weapon here just by flipping that section open and having him hold it in his hand. You can do whatever you want with all these. I mean, like I said, you know, they're really originally meant for a different figure, so they don't all have like a great place to go. But, you know, he's got the proper pegs and ports all over the place. In terms of storage, he does still have a peg on the back just because the light bar also has the peg hole there. If you want, I usually just leave the other weapons off to the side and just store this one back there. But technically, because the other 3 weapons all have like pegs and ports on them, there is a way to get this so that like actually all the weapons can store in the back. It's not like elegant because they're, you know, some of the ports are on like the side and they also jut way off of the back, but you can technically get all of his weapons stored back there if that's what you want to do. He does also have ports like, you know, on the back of his legs, so you could plug some stuff back there, but then that kind of messes with the knee articulation. I also find on him that one of the hips is a little bit loose side to side, which is kind of unfortunate, but at least he's got big enough feet that it's not like he's ever wanting to just like do the splits on the shelf or anything like that. But yeah, you know, not great weapon storage, but that's, you know, fair considering these weren't even originally intended to be with the mold. And I don't really care because I'm just going to leave him with the grill gun to be, you know, part of the vehicle mode and then just leave these other guns off to the side. But you know, that's just me. In terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe, just for that standard deluxe size comparison there. You can see pretty average deluxe, just like every version of this mold is. Here he is again with Crankcase, just so you can see some of the differences there. Obviously, different head sculpt, but the rest of it is the exact same mold. And yeah, with Crankcase, it's like I feel like for whatever reason, he feels more solid in vehicle mode and he feels more solid in robot mode. And even Crankcase wasn't perfect. Like his chest thing is annoying, but it like stays in place a lot better just with those tabs. And then he doesn't have, you know, the floppy hips off to the side, but otherwise, you know, they're both decent. And then here he is again with Legacy United Chase, just so you can see what he looks like with another newer Rescue Bots character. It'd be great to get, you know, I like that we're starting to get more Rescue Bots characters. It'd be great to get like other versions of the actual, you know, main team from the show, but still, I think that the two of them look nice together. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. He's a decent figure, decent use of this mold. It's nice to get another Rescue Bots character, but you know, doesn't feel totally solid to me. I don't like that the chest doesn't really stay locked in, even worse than Crankcase, and even it wasn't really even perfect on him. I don't like the hips going off to the side, but you know, it's all kind of just little nitpicks here and there. For the most part, it's still a decent mold and he's still a decent figure. But yeah, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Legacy Evolution Autobot Medix.